See if we've gone live. Might be taking a bit today. There we are. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Aaron's Reading Room. This is going to be an interview with author Callie Anthony. But first, I need to address something. So on Friday in my country, the United States, abortion was ruled to be illegal, at least at the federal level, and is up to the states to decide. And there are now many states in our country where abortion is flat out illegal. This is the loss of a human right, and human rights are not negotiable. So you can make something illegal, but that doesn't mean that it's going to stop. It just makes it worse. So I have put in the description box below resources where you can go, where you can, if you need help seeking reproductive help or health care, or if you like to help someone or an organization that helps people seek the proper reproductive health care that they need. Because Roe v. Wade was about more than abortion. It was about simple right to privacy and being able to seek the medical care that you need without anyone's interference. Okay, off my soapbox now and back to regularly scheduled programming. Callie Anthony, Harlequin Presents author, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm really, really well, thanks. So it's 9:30 in the morning over here in Australia where I live, and it's winter, so I'm cold and a bit rugged up in my jacket and scarf. So, yeah.
So ignorant American here, but so it does get cold in Australia.
Well, I'm on the East Coast, so I live in the subtropics. It's probably about 20 degrees Celsius today, and it was 19. Okay, so maybe, and I consider that cold.
All right, fair enough.
It's chilly for me. Oh, look, we do get down lower than that, but, yeah, it's a bit of a shock to the system when the thermometer drops below 20 degrees Celsius. So, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, I hope you're doing well in the cold there. I hope that you get the heater kicked on. And everything.
Yeah, fine. I've got my slippers on at the moment.
So. There we go. All right. And our friend Alicia's here. Hey, Alicia, thanks for joining us. All right. So I always like to start off the interviews with asking my guests to show off some covers that they're loving on. So do you have any covers you'd like to show us?
Well, I do. I read so many, and they're not mine. I love my covers.
That's fine.
I particularly love this one. I mean, I've got to say, I do love Snowbound. It is brilliant adult bed because, that's the slightly shirtless cover. But I've got two covers that I've just adored. One cover in particular, it's an Amanda Chinelli's book, and I just have it sitting on my phone. And I don't know if you can see. It's this one. That one. The Billionaire's Last Minute. I mean, look at that silver fox. Oh my Lord! I just keep looking at it. It gives me all the feelings. Can I tell you? Anyhow. Another one that I love is a Kimberly Lemming book. It's from the Mead Mishap series. I don't know if you've seen any of those. And this one is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard these titles. Yes.
Such a cute look. It's just such a joyful cover. I'm not a huge fan of those illustrated covers, but this is beautiful with, the guy with the horns and the flowers, and it just really is exactly how the whole book feels. So they're my two favorite covers at the moment. I just adore them. So.
Yeah, well, and those covers fit with the titling of those books too.
They do.
It would be a little weird if we had just a photographic cover for something. Amy Andrews is on my channel. Oh my goodness! Yes. Hi, Amy. Thank you for being here. Yes, very hot cover there.
Yeah. So they're sort of my two favorite covers at the moment. But Amanda's pips it because I just keep going back to it. I scroll back through it and go, oh, gee, look at him. I'm trying to think up a book idea with that man as hero inspiration. I'll get there eventually. Okay. It's just, anyway.
So so you can just go to Tony and be like, that model right there. Get him.
That's him. That's the one. That's the one. Yeah.
Oh, Juliet's here too. Hi, Juliet. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Juliet.
All right. Well, can you please share with us what your journey to becoming a published author was like?
Oh, wow. So I think you might hear from a lot of authors that they wanted to write from a teenager, and I certainly did. I started writing a book. It was kind of this dystopian romance at about 15, typing it up on mum's manual Remington typewriter, a really old one from the 60s. And I got into it about 120 pages in and thought, this actually is far too adult in theme for me to be writing. I recognized that as a 15-year-old. So I sort of put it aside and, got into life and promptly sort of forgotten about it. I mean, my mum and aunt wanted to write for Mills and Boon, and my mother tried. I've got her 2 partial manuscripts in a top drawer, which I found
that's so
after
cool.
they passed away. We were cleaning out the house. So that's a wonderful thing to have. She wasn't successful. And then, look, it was about 11 years ago, and mum was diagnosed. She was terminally ill. And when we found out, she was terminally ill, she sort of grabbed me by the shoulders and said, Carly, you need to start writing again. And I did the very next day, and I put together this kind of women's fiction sort of story, 50,000 words of just random love triangle. It was horrible anyway. And I just went, no, that's actually not what I want to write for. I want to write for Harlequin Presents. I'd read it, I loved it, the line. So my husband went out and bought a whole lot of Harlequin Presents for me from the shops, and I read them. And I started writing then, put in my first book, which took about 2 years to write, and I got a really lovely rejection, warm, believable characters, strong emotional conflict, not quite the hooks we wanted, which I'd sort of worked out at the time. That book would have suited another line better, a line that had subsequently been discontinued.
Okay.
Then I put in the second book that I wrote, which I had written as part of National Novel Writing Month, NaNoWriMo, and the hero had completely overtaken me. And that book was ultimately Revelations of His Runaway Bride. Within 2 weeks of putting the book in, I received an email. I thought, this is, the fastest rejection in history. And it was a request for a full manuscript. I went, that's a bit serious. So I put it in the full. And within 6 weeks or so, I got another email, and I went, well, here's the rejection. No, it was revisions. So I thought, great. Okay, pressure's on. So I took a little while to do the revisions, sent them back, and then I waited and I waited and I waited. I waited for 12 months, in fact. And I waited so long without following up because I knew a lot of authors who were very well-respected romance authors were having delays with Harlequin because they just had a lot of work on. And in the end, I was at the Romance Writers of Australia conference after the cocktail party and thought, you know what, I'm just going to follow this up. So I emailed my editor. She got back to me within 5 minutes and said, I've still got your manuscript as outstanding. I haven't received it. I went, what? I've got the email here. She said, can you send it to me? I went, well, I'll just forward you the email I originally sent. Sure, I'm not at home at the moment. I don't have access to my computer. She went, that's fine. You send it to me. I'll look at it really quickly. Within 3 weeks, I got an email saying, can I give you a call? And I just went, oh my gosh, this is it. This is the call. And it was. So it was an exercise in patience. But and I probably should have followed up a bit earlier, but I didn't stop writing in that time. So I just kept writing and writing and writing. So I think it just happened at the perfect time. And ultimately that first book, Revelations of His Runaway Bride, I mean, Mum didn't survive to see my first book published, but it was published. The official publication date was the 8th anniversary of her death. She passed away on the 16th of June. Its publication date was the 16th of June. So that was, that was quite extraordinary. It was really quite special to me that it was ultimately published on that date. So that's my writing journey.
Oh, that's so great to hear. That's a really, really inspirational story there. Yes, thanks for sharing that with us. And Juliet says, yeah, instead the fastest request ever, which that did seem pretty fast for follow up, especially from a new author, I suppose.
Yeah, it was very quick. So all the way along, I was expecting rejections and kept getting surprised when they said, "Oh, can we see a bit more?" Yeah,
yeah. Well, can I ask that first manuscript that was rejected? Did any of the elements of that story end up in future books, or has it just been?
No, it's still sitting there. I'd love to publish it. But it doesn't fit the Harlequin Presents line. It's very Australian, set in Australia. It's still got billionaires and stuff like that, but it's really quite quintessentially Australian. It's got a different feel to it. I don't know if you'd ever read the Kiss line of that Harlequin used to put out.
I haven't.
Slightly different, higher heat, bit fun, bit flirty, not quite the sort of angst, I suppose, or the emotional weight is probably a better way of talking about Harlequin Presents. So it had a slightly different feel, and I understood that whilst the hero was, the billionaire, he didn't drive the Ferrari, he was in construction and stuff, so different feel. I'd like to publish it. I think it's probably targeted more for an Australian market because it has a really Australian feel for it. But, at the moment, I'm just sort of caught up with doing the Harlequin Presents, and self-publishing is a whole different game. I'd have to learn how to do that and get covers and editing. And right now, I'm still trying to find my way, really. So I'm not going to say never. And maybe I'll, put it up and give it to people free if they want my newsletter and say, here, read my first book that I ever wrote. I don't know. One day, though. It's a story I'm very proud of. Yeah.
All right. Well, just post it and make sure to tag me in it so that I know where to find it when it comes out.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I love to ask Presents and Mills and Boon Modern authors to explain what the line is like and what makes it so special.
Oh, wow. Well, it's the home of the alpha hero, which I really love. I mean, what I love about the alpha hero is they have this sense of themselves in the world and they know where they're positioned. And then a heroine comes in and completely destroys their sense of self and their sense of place in the world, because suddenly there's this woman running rampant in their life and they go, what on earth has happened to my neat, tiny little life? I love that. I love sort of the high fantasy of it. It's characters who can essentially do what they want. Who really cares about passports or, the dreaded COVID or whatever? You can live your characters can live these amazing, fantastical kinds of lives. You can build worlds, different countries. I love, as I've said, it's not really the angst, it's the emotional weight of the stories. They are meant to be deeply emotional. They're meant to make you feel. It's what I love about them. I like the fact they're open door as well. Higher heat, though, sort of euphemistically written, but it's really the whole alpha hero, the high fantasy and the emotional weight that you get in the stories and the emotion that I love about them. I can just let my imagination run wild. I suppose every author does, but these books are not rooted in every day. They're not the boy next door. They're not real life stories. They're just, an utter delight to write, which is why I love them so much.
Well, it's definitely a skill to write a Harlequin Presents because, I've talked with other Harlequin authors and some of them just said, love Presents, couldn't write it, just wouldn't be able to do it.
And I can't tell people how to write them because a lot of people want to write for the line. They say, how do you write them? I said, I actually don't know. But when you read a Harlequin Presents, a Harlequin Presents. The minute you read one, you know what it is. They've got a particular feel about them. And I've done some other writing as well. So not Harlequin Presents type writing, a few short stories and things like that. And my style is very different. You can still hear my voice, but they don't sound like a Harlequin Presents. But I still can't pinpoint why or what makes them so different. But there is this indefinable something, I think, about them that just marks them as what they are. So I love them.
Yes, they're great. And us big fan readers of it are just die hard for them.
Oh, yeah,
Ride or Die
yeah,
Presents.
yeah. You see, there's a books behind there. I've got a top
Yeah.
shelf with a whole lot that people have given me. It's like, yep. Harlequin Presents forever. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I was talking, Brie and I got a chance to talk to one of your fellow Presents writers, Marcella Bell, recently. And she was a thousand times more elegant about speaking about this, but I thought it was a really good point, and I wanted to get your opinion on it. And that is, the alpha hero is still a hero. And that, I guess, that line of the alpha hero being a hero is kind of getting rocky lately in trends. So do you have anything to speak to that yourself?
Look, everyone talks about the alpha hole type hero. It's a difficult line to tread. And for me, some people like the heroes who edge on the, side of anti-hero. I still like my heroes to be strong and dictatorial, but inherently deeply good. That's what I try to write in all my alpha heroes. They are deeply good, honorable men who just have been allowed to get their own way for too long, and so they need someone to rein them in. But in every story I write, they're deeply redeemable human beings. So, I think there is a bit of that. Is it called dark romance? I suppose you could have that. And I do love that. But for me, it's not something I could write. I can read it, but they're not the types of heroes I want to be, I want to write. I think there's this immensely deep core of goodness that should be present in them. And I think a lot of Harlequin Presents do that very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you.
And it's hard, at the moment, a lot of people complaining about billionaires and finding them very hard to redeem. And so that's the other thing. I think societally, people are changing a bit and complaining about things. And so I'm also trying to write characters who have so much money they could literally do anything, which is somewhat inconceivable to me, to have the resources to literally do almost anything you want. How do you come back from that as a human? How, as a human being, do you rein yourself in and maintain a deep sense of morality and a deep sense of love and care for other people when you've got enough money to buy almost anyone and anything? So I think that's a really interesting challenge that I have in all my stories. It's how to make these people real and believable human beings with a moral core, I suppose.
Yeah. And there's just, it wouldn't be right if all that money in the world still couldn't buy them the love from the person they need it from. So, just that it's just, I love that in a Presents, it just, in the end, it doesn't matter for the one thing that they really need,
Yep. Absolutely. They can have all the money in the world and, that can't buy them the one thing they want, which is the love that they need. Yeah. Teaches them powerful lessons.
Yes. And we love it. We love it every time.
Yes, we love it. We love it all the time. Every lesson they learn is like, yes.
But Off Limits to the Crown Prince came out in August 2021, and Snowbound in His Billion-Dollar Bed came out February 2022. Please tell us what these books are about and what was it like to write them?
So Off Limits to the Crown Prince Alessio, his father has stepped down from the crown from being the prince of this principality, Lucerno, in disgrace, and Alessio's had to basically take up the country and try and rescue it. He is an absolute perfectionist. He has become a very different person in his older age because he wants to be perfect and rebuild the country. He's looking for a perfect princess. He is only about duty, and that's it. He's kind of lost all sense of fun. And as part of that, he's going to be crowned, and he wants the perfect coronation portrait. So he's looking for the best portrait artist in the world. And his private secretary, Stefano, finds the perfect portrait artist, the best portrait artist in the world, a young 25-year-old woman in country England who creates these amazing portraits. So he says, she's the one I want, and she is who I'm going to have. She wants nothing to do with this for various reasons. She has a link with Alessio from the past. They were both very good horse riders, but she had this terrible family tragedy, and now she wants nothing to do with horses. Alessio reminds her of it because she saw him on, you know, one of the worst days of her life when all the tragedy happened. She wants nothing to deal with him, but she's forced to deal with him. So he sort of sweeps her off to his country Lucerno and says, follow me around for 2 weeks and paint me, which is what she does. She doesn't want love because love and loss is all combined to her. He doesn't want love because, you know, for him, he's had tragedy and broken relationships, and they meet and boom, basically. I loved writing that book because the heroine, Hannah, just refused to pander to him. He was this uptight prince, and she was having none of it. She was saying, you're not my prince. I'm not, you know, you're not the ruler of me, so just behave yourself. And she completely flummoxes him. She just unravels his perfect, neat, tidy life and picks it apart piece by piece. And I loved watching him just fall apart like a house of cards because of what she brings into his life. With Snowbound in his $1 billion bed, Stefano is a count in disgrace, absolute disgrace. He's done a terrible thing. He has betrayed his best friend. He believes he's irredeemable. He's stuck in his castle in the snowy mountains in the middle of the winter. Heating's not working. He's sent away all his servants. He's on this mission to redeem his family name. And on his doorstep turns up an Australian woman, Lucille, who is a first violinist, concert violinist, who has some link with his family and the castle from World War II, deep in the past, and her grandfather, and they're snowbound together. And Stefano is a difficult character. He's in a very dark place. He's drinking a lot. He's not in a good place at all. And this bright, sunshiny girl turns up on his doorstep, and he has to look after her and make her feel comfortable. And she's hiding a great deal from him. He's hiding a great deal from her. And again, they have to find out a lot about each other to find love in that story. That story was a very special one to write because of the hero, because it wasn't planned. It's not the book I was planning to write, but when I'd written Off Limits to the Crown Prince, suddenly this story just sort of went boom in my head. So it was not a planned story, which is why those two books are not linked as a duo, because I made the decision to write them as linked books very late. But yeah, essentially the second one was a story I had to write. So they were a lot of fun.
Yeah, I was actually curious about that because I went on the site to see, you know, what the series name or whatever it was for it, and they're not connected.
No plans. So no plans to write Snowbound in his $1 billion bed at all. That was not even on the horizon until I wrote Off Limits.
Okay, well, I'm going to skip ahead in a question here. And it's at what point in writing Off Limits to the Crown Prince did you realize that Stefano was the actual hero?
First chapter. First chapter, I had to cut out so many scenes with him and Alessio in. Basically, in my first draft, the hero and heroine didn't meet each other on the first few pages. The pair on the first 2 pages were the hero Alessio and his best friend Stefano. And what I loved is Stefano was the man Alessio could have been if he didn't have all the tragedy in his life. Stefano was the one who would always bring Alessio back to ground him. And he was a bit like the male version of Hannah. He didn't put up with any nonsense. They were best friends. And I think Stefano was the perfect wingman and was always there in the background, sort of pushing Alessio and Hannah together. And he was such a character from the first chapter. So I had to cut out all these scenes. And then I won't say what happened because it's a bit of a spoiler alert. But I did certain things in the book, and when it came back from the editor, I just had all these capitals and exclamation marks, and she was saying, no, you can't. How could you have done this? How could you do this to Alessio and Stefano? Can you change it? And I said, no. I actually can't change what I've done because what I've done is absolutely necessary. But how about I give you Stefano's story? And that's how Stefano's story came to be. And she went, yes, please. And funnily enough, she said to me, look, this is one of my favorite stories that you've written. She said to me, the proofreader loved it, the line editor loved it, everyone loved it. Some reviewers haven't necessarily loved it, but that's fine. I kind of understand the reason why. It's a bit unlike my normal style. It was pretty gothic in places, but they all like that whole dark, creepy castle gothic vibe that it had. And I just loved it because I love Stefano. He's one of my favorite heroes to this day. I just adore him still.
And I love that you pulled up. There's an entire castle, but there's only one room that has a bed that stays warm. So that has any semblance of heating.
That was an achievement. Yeah.
So yeah, I know.
Yes.
It's a tragedy.
He's the girl from the subtropics. Lucy's a girl from the subtropics who hates winters.
I did wonder in the beginning of the book. I was like, is that car actually broken, or is she just?
No,
the
car was actually broken. It was broken down on the side of the road. It was actually broken.
I wouldn't have blamed her if that was just a story. So
no.
Well, I have to ask you something. So a general rule in writing romance and just some stories in general is that you don't harm the animal, but in Off Limits to the Crown Prince, you just went ahead and killed the horse. So,
okay. So yes, I'm a monster. All right. One thing I've got to say is, with me, if there is an animal on page in the beginning, alive and frolicking and gambling in the beginning of the book, it will remain alive at the end.
Yes.
This me, and I am actually going to start putting trigger warnings on my website because Harlequin Presents books don't have them, but I am going to, because I realize some of the themes I write about are quite strong. I've written about pregnancy loss and all sorts of things. This one is the animal. It's all written in the past. I promise that this horse, died in the past. This was one of the parts of the tragedy of the heroine. She lost her parents and the horse. That was really hard. I gave that a lot of thought. But for that particular story and that particular heroine, her resistance to painting Alessio's portrait is because he was a show jumper. She was a show jumper. She didn't want anything to do with horses anymore because on that particular day she lost everything, including her horse. If her horse had survived and her parents had died, she would at least have had one thing left for her. And I had to take away everything. I took away everything. She lost everything. And that was really hard. That's also why I made the horse a Palomino. Palomino is my favorite horse color. And I thought, well, look, if I'm going to put readers through the pain, I may as well make it my favorite color horse. So yes, there's nothing. He died. Bo the horse died in the past, but you know about it because it shapes her life. She lost her parents and her horse on the same day in a tragic accident. So I was mean. I don't think I'll do that ever again. And that, I must say, that was really, really hard to do. That was hard to do. I went, I'm a monster. But anyway.
Well, don't be mistaken, watchers, viewers. It is still a great book, and you don't want to miss out on it. So make sure to check that out. Well, when Alessio's having a conversation with Stefano in Snowbound, he, in my eyes at least, kind of redeemed himself a bit from something he did in his own book. This moment I thought was nothing short of perfect when Alessio's just like, you took it from her? And like, I feel like Stefano and I at the same time are just like, oh.
Yeah,
Oops.
Oops, what have I just done? Yeah, that scene was a really important one for me because, look, the story is about the hero and the heroine, but this story was also about the hero and his best friend, and it had been such a strong friendship in the first book. There had to be this sort of intense reconciliation between them, but also working out his friendship and his deep sense of self-loathing, because that's the thing that is all throughout the book. Stefano is in an intensely deep sense of self-loathing, and all he has left is this one little shred of pride. And in the end, he even loses that. I mean, he's just got nothing left in the well. And it was a really important scene for me to write, to resolve that, and for him, because through the scene, you know, I hoped, and it's obvious I did, you could see his mind ticking over going, hold on a sec, what have I really just done here? Yeah. What have I done here? Because I believe I'm doing the right thing, and because I believe I'm carrying out my, what have I done? Oh my gosh, what have I done? The other thing is I liked it because I love getting to see characters from earlier books later. And I wrote an epilogue in Off Limits, and you got to see Alessio and Hannah and how their relationship developed. But you rightly said Alessio was an unmitigated jerk in the first book, and he was just a jerk, because he was this perfectionist and thought he was doing what he should do, and he was an idiot about it. And so it was nice to see also, I thought, how far he'd come.
Yes.
So it was like this mirror, you know, Stefano, if you just get your act together, you'll be where Alessio is right now, you know, just, you know, look at your friend and go, yeah, that's what I should be doing. This is how I should be behaving. So I hoped it sort of tied things up for people as well, and gave them a bit of a glimpse into Hannah and Alessio's life again, because I always like that in later books anyway, myself. So
yeah, it's always such a treat to just peek in on how they're doing. Yeah. Well, and that scene, it also had just such a great callback to the beginning of the book. Do you have any kind of secret in writing the perfect callback?
No, it's really hard. Some of it can simply be innate. I think your brain is quite an amazing thing. So I've often written books where I've written them all, and then you read through and go, oh, that sort of harks back to the beginning here. I think your mind works in amazing ways. This scene, though, had to be really deliberate, because I had to make it perfect. And I mean, I don't know if I made it perfect, but it was a really, really important scene to me. Thank you. And I really wanted to show this healing of a friendship, as well as a, you know, realization of other things. But yeah, it is difficult. I think if you're doing it consciously, you have to think about what the important things were in the beginning of the book and insert them into that scene and find some way to link them back. So in this scene, there was a bit of, oh, it just happened because my brain worked the right way. And others, it was really quite some deliberate editing to make sure that I had linked to earlier scenes in a way that was meaningful for these characters. So it's sometimes art and sometimes science, and sometimes just, oh my goodness, how lucky am I that my brain just did that for me? How did I do it?
Well, thank you for sharing that with us. So can you tell viewers what the art fact sheet is, and can you share with us what you put on yours for the cover of Snowbound?
Yes, so the art fact sheet, and I did have my art fact sheet up, but I can't.
Oh, uh-oh. Might have closed the window. I'll give her a chance to jump back in. But viewers, if you have any questions for Callie Anthony, go ahead and put them in the comments, and we'll get those answered. I'll just send Callie a message here that she can just jump back in. So I'll tell a little story right now. When for the Categorically Romance podcast, oh, there's Callie. There we go.
Sorry.
Oh, that's it's okay. I put you on the spot.
No, it's all good. So artist fact sheet. I don't know what happened. I think my internet dropped out. So it's essentially a cover brief. You have your scenes, your synopsis, you describe your characters. You can put photographs in as to what you think your characters are like, and what else? Yeah, you describe key scenes. So I described 3 key scenes for Snowbound. One was when Hannah played the violin for Stefano in his room, and played Vivaldi Four Seasons Winter, which is a song that I listened to on repeat 4 or 5 times a day for 12 months as I was writing these 2 stories. That was sort of the song that got me into the space. The second scene was a scene in the conservatory, which you would remember. And the third scene was the scene where Stefano and Hannah reconciled in the hotel room. So what they picked for the scene was the scene in Stefano's room where Hannah had just finished playing the violin. So I had to describe both characters. I think Stefano was based a little on Tom Ellis, the actor from Lucifer, just that sort of dark, kind of handsome, cheeky sort of character.
Yes.
So that's how I established the cover brief. The book they put on the dress, this gorgeous dress, which I want to make one of, to be honest. Nowhere to wear it, but it's beautiful. She wasn't wearing that dress. A lot of my characters wear fairly casual clothes, and it's Harlequin Presents. They put them in beautiful clothing. So they do mix things up occasionally, but yeah, that's really what you put in there. Countries, their motivations, how they got to meet each other, so that the art team can get an idea of what the characters look like, the flavour of the book, so they can inject that into the cover. So I'm due to do another artist fact sheet now. I'm sort of dreading it because synopses aren't really my friend, to be honest.
Well, super excited for another release from you.
Thank you.
Doridu, love your questions. Oh, well, thank you. I try my best to come up with interesting questions. So yeah, we actually got a chance, Bree and I from the Categorically Romance podcast, got a chance to talk with Tony A.R.R, which he's the art director
for
Harlequin.
Oh, wow.
So he, I asked him about the dress from your book specifically.
Oh, did you?
And I was like, where did you find that? Do you have just like designers just banging your door down, like, put my dress on a cover? And he's like, no, we have like, extra stuff from like, the TV studios. And so we just kind of grab whatever. And I'm like, you just had that just laying around?
I just love that dress. I really do want to make it. I want to find purple sequin fabric and just make that dress, because I can sew. So I just thought, I want to make that dress and just wear it somewhere. It's like outstanding.
It is. It's great.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Congratulations on getting such a beautiful cover.
Thank you. I've been very, very lucky. The cover gods have been smiling down on me. I'm just thrilled with the covers. They're just beautiful covers. I love them.
Yeah, they've been doing a great job lately. All right. Well, Presents and Modern is known for putting out mini-series that are written by multiple authors. Is there a possibility we'll see you as part of a mini-series?
Gosh, I don't know. I would love to. So if they ever wanted me to, I just would be thrilled. I kind of get the feeling they sort of use their superstar authors, those, all the superstars who are, Fiona, Romance Writers of Australia Gala dinner dress. I am thinking about doing that. So I would love to. The thing about me is a lot of the authors who do write full time, they're a lot faster than I am. So I take 6 months to write a book. And when you're writing series, I don't necessarily know how I'd fit into that, because I am not a fast writer. So some people can, do a book in 3 months. I can't. I have a day job. I work 4 days a week. I've got a family. So I fit my writing in around that. So it would be something that I would have to be able to fit in with. So I don't know. If they asked me, yeah, I would try my darndest to absolutely do that. I think, though, I did speak to my editor at the very beginning when I was looking at doing my second book, and I had no idea. And I said, is there a kind of story you want to see? And she said, no, all we want you to do is just kind of settle in, develop your own career, develop your own style, find your way, find your voice, and enhance your voice. And I think that's what they do with people at the early stages of their career. I've found the editors I've worked with, because I've worked with 3 now. My original editor went off on maternity leave. I had 2, and then my original editor's come back, my commissioning editor. And they're really quite sort of nurturing and very helpful. It's what I've found. They're wonderful. So I think really they're trying to find you to fit into the career, fit into your groove, rather than forcing you to do something which might put you under too much pressure. But I would not say no if I was asked to be part of some type of story theme.
Yeah, that's interesting, because Marcella, when we were talking to her, said something similar, that her, Maisie Yates, and Caitlin Cruz did a pitch, and when it was picked up in their writing, like, she was getting these emails like, oh, here's a chapter, here's another chapters, and she's like, oh my gosh, I'm this new author and I'm trying to keep up with Maisie Yates and Caitlin Cruz.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, because the stories have to have these threads and the characters. And right now I'm not in a position I just can't do that. So I'm probably not in a position to. But as I said, if asked, I would try very hard to fit in and do it. So.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, there's another Presents author here in the chat, so it's there's
as I say, never say never, say never.
I love to read Presents, but I cannot write that kind of glamour, which makes me sad. Yeah, we were talking about that.
I love the glamour. Oh my goodness, I love it.
You know what? I would still recommend everyone that loves Presents to try to write their own, because I imagine they're fun books to just
such fun
create.
Such fun. I just love them. I love them to pieces.
Well, who are some of the Presents and modern authors that you consider an inspiration to your own writing?
So when I first started, as I said, my husband went to the shops. He went to Target and he bought about 6 books, and I read them all. But, there's one author that really stood out to me was Maisie Yates. I mean, my goodness, I just loved Maisie. So then I stalked her on social media. And apart from being just a flipping brilliant author, her book, The Royal World Apart, the first Presents I read, I've still got it. I still read it every year. And I read that and went, this is what I want to write. Not exactly like her. I've got a very different voice and a different style, but I knew it was like this monstrous light bulb moment. So I love her, and she's a tremendously generous human being and so intensely knowledgeable about writing and the business of publishing. Like, you can ask her anything. She's fabulous. I love Annie West. She's an Australian author, absolutely fantastic author as well. Love her books. Caitlin Cruz. And I love Caitlin Cruz, Megan Crane, because she's some of her stories are just the wackiest Presents I've ever read. The one where the hero's plane crashes, everyone thinks he's dead, and he turns up in the mountains as a cult leader is one of my favorite Presents of all time. And Jackie Ashenden too. So Jackie, I knew a long time before she was a Presents author, and I remember talking to her at a writing conference, and she said, oh yeah, I'm trying to pitch just Presents and I keep getting rejected. And I went, oh my goodness, Jackie Ashenden, the writer of Alpha Hero, is getting rejected for Presents. And she went, yeah. Just because you're published doesn't mean you don't get rejected. And I remember another conference I saw her at, she said to me, guess what? I've just been picked up by Presents, and I was so thrilled. And it was sort of about the time I'd submitted mine, or I got the request for the full manuscript, and it was really, really exciting. So, Jackie is a fabulous author, and she also reminds me that just because you're published does. I mean, you're not going to get a rejection. So yeah, they're some of my favorite, and I read them all the time. But then there's Danny Collins and Lucy Munro's, and there are so many. Melanie Milburn. I mean, oh gosh, so many fabulous Presents authors. You've got a wealth to choose from.
Oh, I know. Yeah, just so many.
Yep.
Well, you have a rescue greyhound I've seen from social media, and can you just please tell us all about them?
I will. Yeah. I'll try and pull up a photo. This is a photo of my dog Daisy. That's her, my beautiful girl. My husband owned greyhounds when he was younger. As a child, his dad owned some. And he'd always said to me they were beautiful dogs. I always thought they were just skinny and sad looking. And then there was a current affairs program that we have on called Four Corners, and they did an expose into the greyhound industry. And most of the time I watched it from like this with my hands over my face. It was horrible. And I said to my husband, we need to rescue a greyhound. So he sort of put the word out. He was just talking to people, and we got this message from a girl whose sister he knew, who said someone she knows trains greyhounds and has this dog who he needs to get rid of because she'd suffered an injury. So we trekked out, knowing nothing about this dog, to a country area. We find her skinny and covered in ticks at this place. And my husband went to me, she is the ugliest greyhound I have ever seen in my whole entire life. But she just came up to every single one of us and leaned on us and wanted smooches and pats. And she was great with the kids. And the trainer was there and the owner was there and the trainer's kids were there going, oh, Daddy, we don't want to get rid of Daisy. And so I looked at her and went, right, we're taking her. And we got her and fattened her up. And, she promptly, jumped on our beds and lounge suites. She didn't know how to walk up a flight of stairs. She wasn't toilet trained as a 5-year-old dog, but boy, she knew what a bed and a couch was. And she is just this brilliant, intelligent, funny, happy dog. They're not skinny, sad dogs. They're an absolute delight of an animal. They are so beautiful. When it was stressful, I had to train her not to eat my cat, which I did. And now she's great. The budgie flies down and sits on her and she's perfectly fine. But they are truly the most beautiful dogs. They don't need much exercise. They're awesome for a lazy family, sleep 20 hours a day, and are just the most delightful pets you could own. They're beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful dogs. If you're looking for a dog, rescue a greyhound. They are wonderful animals.
Yeah, my parents had about 4 of them throughout just their period of owning dogs, and they fostered one briefly, but he didn't work out with the other animal. He needed to be a one animal dog with a family. So yes, so that's great. And yes, they are just beautiful and so lazy. They sleep so much.
And they're not allowed to run. You're not supposed to run them, so you can't go jogging with them. They are literally sprinters. They can't run. So a 20-minute walk a day or a couple of walks a day is literally all they need. And then they're just happy chilling out and getting lots of pats. Really is the happiest life for a greyhound. Yeah. Beautiful dogs.
Yeah. One of my parents, when he would get out off the leash, the neighborhood knew. It's like, well, okay, just make sure to block off the entrance to the main road, and he'll run himself out and get tired, and then All right. Well, you're very active on TikTok. So can you share what your experience with TikTok's been so far?
Oh, look, I was really resistant to it, but then, Harlequin in this group we're in said, look, it's actually the place to be. So I thought, okay, then sure, I'll do that and embarrass my children, which I have. Though my daughter's my biggest fan. So the first person who likes any TikTok I put up is my daughter, my 13-year-old. I got on there. It's another way to connect with readers, and I found it's actually quite a bit of fun. I find it a bit creative if you're doing some silly things on there, and the editing you can do, and clips and transitions. So it is kind of fun. It's a way of meeting new people. I'm not there really advertising my books particularly heavily. I'm not really good at that. I sort of figure often what I want to know about an author is who they are. I've started reading authors' books because I've actually gone, I think you're a really nice person, so I want to read the stuff you write. I might go on there and promote my books a little more. I'm getting lots of fascinating reading recommendations. Oh my goodness, and some of them too. It's like, I just read. Oh my Lord, what is that? Am I normal? Some of the books is like, wow, gee, that was awesome, but I shouldn't admit I like that to anybody. So some of the book talk recommendations, like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so it's just a bit of fun. I'm having fun with it. Having a lot of fun with that. So I find it creative. I have sold 2 books out of it, if any. If that's any measure. 2 people have told me, I bought your book. It's like, oh, awesome, thank you. But ultimately, I think a lot of my going onto social media is more about connection. I like the connection. I like the community. I like meeting new people. And a lot of the way we do that now is via social media. So I really enjoy that, and just chatting to people. So, it's kind of fun. Yeah.
Well,
and I get to make a fool of myself routinely.
Well, I enjoy your content, and I will try. I'm trying to be a little more active on there. I've just dipped my toe in so far, so maybe you'll see more of me on.
Yeah. So we'll see how we go, but no, I'm going to keep up with it because I'm having a lot of fun on there, and ultimately that's what it's about. You've got to enjoy these things too. So they can take time away from your writing. It can be a real time suck, but I just do things that I enjoy.
Yeah, I have stayed away, kept my distance from TikTok for that reason. I post stuff occasionally. I will usually only watch something if it's like someone sends me one that, check this one out. But I know myself very well and know that I would lose hours.
Oh yeah, you can lose. It's a rabbit warren.
Oh, I haven't heard that before. That's an Australian
it is.
idiom there.
You just go down and you keep following and you get lost, really. I've got a lot of food videos. Actually, I tell you what, if you want good recipes, my goodness, I've made some fantastic meals from stuff I found on TikTok. Some of our favorites are meals I've found on TikTok. So if for nothing else, I'm staying on TikTok for the food.
Excellent. Well, Fiona here says Pippa Roscoe has written some royal romances recently that remind me a little of Callie's royal ones. Is that the Royals of Spartia trilogy?
They are on my TBR. I've got to read those. I haven't read any of them yet.
So this is book 2 in that one there. Yeah. I have book 3. It's just in the other room.
I haven't read any of them. They're on my Kindle to read, so I've got to read those because I love Pippa too. She's
great. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, the Royals of Spartia. Yeah, those are really good. Really good.
Good.
All right. Yeah. Well, Callie, can you tell us what is next for Callie Anthony?
Okay. So at the moment I'm writing, it's a trio of stories. It's the Behind the Palace Walls sort of series. There are 3 of them. And the first one is... what's the name of the story? I've just completely forgotten the name. Oh my goodness, I've got the cover here and everything.
That's fair. You don't pick the names, so we know this.
No, I had it. I've got it in this book. So it's the first one is The Marriage That Made Her Queen.
Okay.
And that will be out in September. I just had a complete brain fade. So that will be out in September. I've got the cover for that. I can actually show you because I've got it sitting on my phone here.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the cover. That's the cover there.
Oh my goodness!
Marriage That Made Her Queen.
Oh, those lanterns! It looks so cool.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. That's a really gentle sort of intimate scene. I think that story's a bit of it's not particularly gothic. The hero, in many ways, I struggled with because I think he's still an alpha hero. Do I think he's a bit softer than the normal hero? It's just got a slightly different flavour to it, I think. You know how people sort of said they they wanted a bit less angst. This book's got plenty of angst, but yeah, I don't know. It's got a bit of it's got a more romantic feel to it. I think there's a lot more romance in the story. The next one has just gotten a title called Engaged to London's Wildest Billionaire. I said to my editor, oh my goodness, I've got to make him wilder. So I'm typing away. Oh dear. Anyway, I don't know if half of what I'm putting in there now, because I'm in revisions, is going to pass. Anyhow, we'll see if I made him wild enough. And then the third, so that will be out next year, probably March. And then there will be a third coming 6 months after the last one, which is yet to be written, yet to be named. But they're all sort of royal romances. All the people are interrelated interconnected. So that'll be fun. And then I have been asked to be in an anthology of short stories, novellas. Yeah. Again, royal romances. That will be out early next year, maybe February, March, April next year. No title yet. It's just all proposed. Got to write this story. So I've got the idea. It's all in my head, but it's a short story, so I've got to write that. I'll start that after the revisions are over. So that'll be good. So that's me for the next 12 months. So yes, Fiona, September is a long time away. I know. I'm feeling it too. This one was pushed out a bit. I don't know why that is, because it was on time, but I thought it was going to be published in July, August. But yeah, September. September is a long time away, even for me. I'm waiting for that one. I'm waiting to get the hard book in my hands, because when it comes in a book, when I get my author copies, I always read the book, because I love finally holding a book in my hands and reading my own book. That's gotta be so special. Me for the next 12 months or so. So yeah, busy.
Yeah. Do you find it easier or a little more challenging to write a novella length story?
Look, I think it's going to be challenging, because I put a lot of story into my stories. You would have seen that from Snowbound in his $1 billion bed. I was saying to my husband, I'm so stupid, I'm never going to do this again. That story was so intensely complicated. It has the family history from World War II and mystery. And look, honestly, and that's what I tend to do to stories. So with a novella, you really have to focus on the couple, and it's got to be very tight. So we will see. I've never written one before. Effectively, it's going to be a 15,000 word story, and it will be interesting. It's also, I think I've got to get in my mindset, it's just a snapshot in time. That's what I'm trying to write. So that should be interesting to do. Yeah. But yeah, we'll see. I was asked, and I thought, why not? Why not? So,
just say yes, right?
Yes, say yes to that. And I know quite a few of the authors, so I thought I'd just agree and see how we go.
Oh, well, so much stuff to look forward to, and we're very excited about all of that. Well, Callie, thank you so much for joining me on my little YouTube channel here.
Fabulous.
You're going to have to come onto the podcast, the Categorically Romance podcast.
I would love to.
Yes,
I would absolutely love to do that. Yeah.
We've been meaning to have you on, so I will make sure to send our scheduling stuff to you for that.
Yep, awesome.
So that will be a lot of fun. But until then, viewers, this has been Callie Anthony. In 2 weeks, another Presents author, Lucy Monroe, the Lucy Monroe, will be joining me here. Yeah, isn't she so sweet?
One of my favorite Harlequin Presents is written by Lucy.
Oh yes, yeah, I have so many Lucy books back here. Anytime I see one at the thrift store, I'm like, oh, rescuing that one.
She's just a brilliant author.
Yes. All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. Callie, thank you again for being with us. And we will see you in the next video, everyone. Bye.
See you. Bye. Hey. Okay.